I've been with Juice Plus Company since 1989, and I was introduced to this company by my wife, Mickey Daigle, who some of you can see on the screen as our co-host. Wave, Mick. There you are. Good deal. Well, tonight is a special night. My job tonight is to interview a legend in Juice Plus, Mr. David Beavers, and I'm honored to do so. That's why I thought it was important to recognize the legends with the Juice Plus Company by creating a series of interviews that we're going to do throughout the year. And it was just so important for the first call to be with Mr. David Beavers. Now, many of you may not know Mr. Beavers, but many of you have come after him. But you're going to get to know not only his part, but many of the legends of what it took to build this dynasty called the Juice Plus Company. So for those partners who have wondered what may be separating them from achieving the kind of personal and professional success they've always dreamed of, David Beavers has some words of wisdom. Now tonight, David, through this interview, will be asked some pretty interesting questions. Some I hope he's fully prepared for, which I know he will be, on what it took for him to develop an attitude to create the skills to have a tremendous impact on your Juice Plus career, your family, and just what I call daily living. But most importantly, to maintain that attitude for the best of your life. And that's what David's all about. So you're going to find out tonight what it takes to be a legend in Juice Plus. And Mr. Beavers definitely is one. David, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you for joining us to be part of this interview.
I'm so honored. I've been looking forward to this. I'm sorry I missed out. About a month ago, I thought I had a scare with COVID, but it was a false alarm. I'm here tonight, though. Thank you for having me.
Well, David, we have a lot of new partners. When I say new partners, they might be 5 or 10 years in the business. To us, it's new because we've been in the business over 30 years.
That's right.
So before we get started, would you mind sharing a little bit about your background before Juice Plus?
Yeah, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and went to Vanderbilt University. Early on in my young adult life, I just had a love for speaking and teaching and decided to go into ministry. And so after college, finished in '69, majored in history. I was married at the time, 21 years old. I'm a little wiser now, I hope. But got married, went in the ministry of what's called Campus Crusade for Christ. It's called CRU today. For 4 years, I did that. And then I went to seminary. I felt like I needed more education, more study. So I went to Dallas Theological Seminary, became ordained in the Presbyterian Church, pastored a couple of churches in Florida and Tennessee, and had a counseling practice, and just loved what I did. I still have that heart for those things, and probably more today than ever. But it was kind of a circuitous route, as you know, Kerry, to get from there to here. So here I am, 33 years with Juice Plus. I have 5 years of Greek, 3 years of Latin, 2 years of Hebrew, and I sell fruits and vegetables in a capsule. So you can, I'm totally equipped to do this business.
Very interesting. That's cool. A lot of people don't know your background, so I wanted everyone to kind of understand where you originally came from. Now, David, you joined the company, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 1988, a year before us.
Yeah.
How did you get started, and what attracted you to this business, and maybe what was going on in your life at that time?
Well, as life would happen to me and some of the choices I made, I was going through a real tough season of my life. My marriage was not in the best of shape. I was 41 years old. I was in a doctoral program, and I was really trying to figure out the next chapter in my life and not making any money and living in Atlanta, Georgia, 3 kids, all under the age of 15. And I needed to make some money. And I was literally, I was doing telemarketing with a master's degree. And my sister-in-law, Jackie Beavers, and her son, who is Kurt Beavers, had researched this company. And they came to me and to invite me to join them. And quite frankly, they're the reason I came in. I didn't, the idea of sales, stepping out of what I was doing was just not on the front end very appealing to me, but they had so much credibility with me and they had such a track record of building people and being successful that I joined them. I knew that I would be in a good place and I felt safe with them. I didn't really know much about the company. I didn't know much about the industry, but I needed to make some money. So I just stepped into it kind of wide open and just kind of started haltingly. As I said, I was working on in another doctoral program and just kind of stumbled along and started. I needed to make a couple thousand a month. And so to figure out, but until I got to the next chapter. As it turned out, this was the next chapter. I just didn't know it at the time.
Very interesting. Now, David, it's easy for a lot of people that come to a lot of the conferences, attend a lot of the virtual seminars like we have today or interviews. And a lot of the partners who don't know you well think possibly that this business is just a perfect fit for you. And maybe your success was just being automatic. What were some of the hurdles you found you had to deal with when you first started your business?
That's kind of easy, but it may be hard to explain. As you said, most people don't know me from that period in my life, Kerry. I was in a real crisis of confidence. By the time I started this business, I was coming out of a season where I felt like an utter failure. I'd failed in my marriage. I'd failed in my ministry. And I was a little estranged from my three kids. And that was very painful. So the 3 biggest areas in my life, I had experienced failure. Kurt and Jackie kept inviting me to come and listen to the meetings and encourage me. And they said, just let us work with you. And I think what I would say at this point that once I stepped into Juice Plus and the company as a whole started meeting people like you, I didn't meet you for a few more years, but just this community, it kind of held me for maybe for quite a long time, just kind of held me while I regained my footing, my emotional stability, and gained that confidence back. I remember Jackie, one of the first things she did, even before I was making much money, she would have me teach the marketing plan. She'd have me speak at meetings and kind of knowing that that's where I could get my juices going again. And so, but the first 2 to 3 to 4 years were stop and start, success, fall back, kind of getting my sea legs. So I didn't have a lot of confidence, and so it just took a while to get some momentum going in my life, emotionally as well as financially. That was the big hurdle. I was pretty teachable, and I have decent people skills, but it was just, who am I in this new business? And I've done something for 40 years that I knew well, and now I was in a whole new arena. And I think a lot of people, when I meet them, I think that's made me sensitive to people, that they're coming a lot of times, as I did, with a lot of baggage, but they have good hearts and they're teachable and they're open. And that's the way I was, and I was willing. And the company, I'm grateful to say, was a safe place for me to kind of fall apart and put my life back together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. After I got a chance to meet and know you, I learned a whole lot about who you were, and that's why we wanted to put this interview together, so
Yeah.
more people can understand that although David Beavers has built one of the largest organizations in the company, where did it start? Did he struggle? Were there trials and tribulations? And as you can hear from this answer, certainly everybody has them. It's pretty normal. But David, did you have any specific goals when you started? And how did that affect your approach to the business? Or maybe the approach to your attitude?
Well, like I said, I had one thing going for me at the beginning, and that was I was completely desperate. I, I didn't have a plan B. So I had to make some money. I had to make some sales. I had to do some recruiting. And even that was hard. I'm used in the ministry and counseling, I'm used to people coming to me, and I had to learn to be proactive and initiate and start conversations and listen and engage people and meet their needs. And so that's kind of what I did. I would say, Kerry, for the first 8 months, I was just trying to make a little money, but I went to a conference 8 months in Denver by myself. I didn't know anybody. I just got on a plane and flew out there from Atlanta, and that kind of flipped a switch in me. And my goal went from getting by to really. This may sound a bit ambitious for some people, but I knew that I saw a path to national marketing director, and I'm totally sincere about that. I saw that's what I needed to do because I saw not only the income, but the corporate benefit package. I had 3 kids. I needed to take care of them. And I think the big goal right there at the beginning was to get to national marketing director as soon as possible. That was the big one.
Would you say, would that be safe for me to say that at that time it was more an act of desperation?
Say that again. More what?
Well, at that time, was it more an act of desperation?
Oh, yeah. I was enjoying what I was doing for the most part, but it was kind of like I was kind of trying to catch my breath. I was running hard. I was really chasing it. I was sort of panicked and kind of fear driven, and maybe a little frenetic, maybe a little over the top. I don't think I was pushy, but I was pretty intense. And I know that's hard to believe, but I had to have this, and but I had some good people around me. I had some good modeling around me, and I did over in a couple of years. We had a slightly different marketing plan then, but it's the same principles. And I did get to national marketing director sort of as the one man show, if you know what I mean. I mean, in other words, if something happened in my business with other people, I had to be there to make it happen. So it was exhausting. It was kind of exhausting, but I made it.
Well, being we on this subject, maybe we could differentiate between 2 words.
Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between inspiration and desperation in the business? What's the difference there?
Wow. Well, I think for me, I felt like I was operating from a deficit when I was desperate. It was like, am I going to make it? Self-doubt, scarcity. What will people think of me? What will my peers that went to graduate school with me, who were in my churches, what will they? A lot of concern about what people would think. That he sort of what happened to his life. So I was worried about those things. A lot of worry, I think, is involved when you're desperate. Inspiration, you're coming from a place of acceptance of what is, of a little more confidence, but sort of a bendable confidence. Hopefully, a little more humility than I'd had in previous years, where I felt like I had a message to share and give people hope. And that's when I shifted from desperation to inspiration. I think I was able to start giving people hope. I say, here's the bridge. Here's how you can bridge your life from where you are to where you need to be, but whether it's financially or your health or relationships or any kind of healing you need in your life. So the inspiration for me was a confident ability to give people hope if they're willing to listen and go to work.
I'm gonna move to another question.
Okay.
And I know we're just randomly hitting you with a lot of questions.
Yeah,
I have a few notes here, but you were working with a lot of, at that time, when you came into Juice Plus, with a lot of white collar executives and people that were well educated, a lot of degrees. Do you feel that sometimes, not in your case, but sometimes that ego could come in and cause a problem for someone to move forward?
Well, sure. If people, it's kind of, you meet people, Kerry, and you say, "Hi, my name's David. Let me tell you who I think I am," and then I'll tell you who I think you are. So we wear a lot of masks. We wear a lot of personas, and yes, we do cling to those things. And I think that was what I was doing in those early years, and still probably today a little bit, but less so. And that is, you sort of cling to an image, a persona. And when something, this business has a way of breaking down those false personas to cause you to sort of come forward as who you really are. I think it's a burden for some people. In my case, I've had some ego to overcome. I still do, but I was so willing. And I don't say that like I was this great workaholic. I was willing to learn. I just got into a place where, I became a student. And put myself around people who were better and smarter and more experienced, frankly. Maybe they weren't smarter, but they certainly knew more about building this business than I did. Wow. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Very interesting. I'm going to rewind a little bit.
Okay.
So later in 1993, Juice Plus came out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 1994, I received a phone call from the corporate office. And the phone call was from one of the executive vice presidents, Mr. Elton Dubas. And I didn't know you at that time, but
right.
He calls up and he says, "Hey," he says, "what you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm just building my Juice Plus business as I do every day." He said, "I got a favor." I said, "Yes, sir. What can I help you with?" He said, "I want you to go down to Tennessee and meet this guy named David Beavers. And I want you to go help him." I said, "Okay. Why do I need to help him? Who is he?" And he told me that you were an NAD before I was. And just questions started popping up. Naturally, I'm got in the business in 1989. And I was wondering, why am I going to Tennessee? And then he really made me feel good, David.
What did he say?
You weren't the first choice, Kerry. We had someone else, but they couldn't make it. So I started thinking, tell me what he does. And they said, well, I remember Elton saying, well, he's a minister. And I started thinking, nothing. He's a minister. I'm a boxing promoter. Okay, how does this work? Elton, I mean, why me? He said,
match made in heaven.
You remember those days. How long ago was that, David?
This May, it'll be 27 years. 27
years ago.
Yeah.
Well, the real reason I wanted to do this interview was that people really get a chance to meet you. Once we met, I know I hung around a few days, and we became friends since that day, and it's never stopped. We constantly communicating with each other over the last 25, 27 years. Tell us how things changed at that time. Changed a lot for me because I
Yeah.
learned a lot from you while I was there.
You know, I think let me backfill the story a little bit. When I was living in Nashville and you came to Nashville, I had been living, I was broke. My organization that I'd sort of one man show put together had sort of fallen apart, and I was house sitting. A friend of mine, a friend of a friend of a friend, I couldn't even afford rent, and so I was house sitting in this beautiful, majestic neighborhood. Had a pool. The house was empty, but the people couldn't sell it. The market was soft, and so. But the friend of a friend said, "Would you house sit and just live in the guest quarters until we sell it?" And so I moved in there, and so I'm living in this multi-million-dollar home, house sitting. And a friend of mine who had worked with me in the business decided to go to seminary. And so my car was just garbage. So he turned over to me the last 9 months on the lease to his Mercedes. So I'm living in this 10,000 square foot mansion in the nicest neighborhood in Nashville. And I'm driving a Mercedes and I can't rub two dimes together, but I'm looking good. Okay. I'm really looking good. And that's when you came along about that time. About that time, I finally moved into a little duplex, $300 a month. Got a used station wagon. The rear view mirror was taped on with duct tape. Picture of success. Okay? And then so I do remember talking to Elton, and I said, I need some help. Juice Plus had been out about a year, but we were still selling it in twin packs at a time and didn't have all the things we have today. So you came and we met. And again, I thought someone else was coming, but Kerry Daigle shows up with his black glossy business card. And I thought, a black business card? Who is this guy? Guido, the killer pimp? What is this going on? I mean, what are you doing here? And so, but I fell in love with you. And here's the thing that people don't know is that I keep a journal, as you do, Kerry. And on the day before you came, I wrote in there, say, Lord, I don't know who this guy is. I can read it to you. I'm giving it verbatim to you. True. I don't know who this guy is, but I need help. Give him wisdom and help me rebuild my business. And you showed up and poured your life into me for 3 days. And that's not why we had this interview tonight, but I just, what this company did for me in terms of holding me and in believing in me and giving me the people to come into my life until I could get on my feet was incredible. And you came along and we spent time together, and you were not judgmental. You did not reprimand me. You probably have, I'm getting a little too serious, but so you have some very colorful memories. I know that, but we drove around for 3 days. And the big thing that I picked up from you is I had to make a shift from making it about me, and I had to start building into people, developing leaders, and learning how to promote events. Boy, surprise, surprise, I learned from Kerry Daigle how to promote events. And that shifted my thinking. It shifted my thinking tremendously. And so here I am, my 5th year in the business. And I'm a national marketing director, hanging on, but I don't have any leadership. But you left, and I went to work, and we kept working together. And over the next 5 years, I promoted out 11 national marketing directors in my organization. Everything changed when I made that shift from doing it myself to teaching others, to teach others, to teach others who are teachable. And so that was I had to go to work, but I had to get my mindset tweaked quite a bit. And I appreciate that so much. Your thoughts? Do you remember those days?
Oh, very well. I remember you driving a little car, and it was a standard shift.
It was a Honda, yeah.
Yeah, and
it was a go-kart with a roof.
We were both 2 big guys sitting in this little tiny car, and it was a standard shift. And I remember you shifting the car and driving. You kept just staring at me and, well, what's next? And I said, well, first thing we got to do is get out of this doggone car.
Yeah, I remember that.
I said, we got to get you to make some money so we got a bigger car. That's the first thing.
Yep. Yeah. So I bought a bigger car, but it was a used station wagon. So go ahead. We did better eventually.
Well, let me ask you this, and I think that's so important for the people that are listening in. Now, all of you heard David's background. My background has been in promotions. I've been promoting for over 45 years on national TV, doing a lot of shows, ESPN, Fox, Showtime, HBO, and so forth. How important was it to learn the art of promoting, David?
So much so that I came up with kind of a mantra that you didn't give this to me, but I kind of developed it from my experience. When you promote an event, what you're doing is you're setting people up for people to see and get a vision for what's possible. And people can't see something until they're told what to look for. And when you promote events properly, they see something, not necessarily physically, but in their mind's eye, they begin to see the what ifs, the possibilities, the hope for themselves. And when it's triggered, it's not everything. It doesn't guarantee anything, but that has to happen, I think, for a person to say, I want this. And I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to study. I'm going to find the coaches. I'm going to set the goals. I'm going to grow. So and the other thing too is that promoting is an art form. It's not just telling people, hey, you need to come to this meeting. I mean, that's the big piece. I was sort of in that mode of like, hey, we're having Kerry Daigle's coming to town. No, it's more like this guy's coming to town and he's going to be here for one day, et cetera, et cetera. So I watched you, I learned from you. And over the years, I've made that a key part of my business. Here's what I say, and this is a little commercial. The way I describe the business. If you will share Juice Plus with your friends and family, you can make some excellent part-time income. And if you build a good nucleus of people, you can make some better than average income. But if you also learn to promote events, you can make a fortune. So that's the way I teach the businesses. Where do you want to go? Do you want to get a little income, pay for your product, pay for a car, or do you want to build significant residual income? That's another thing I learned from you. I hadn't thought much about the difference between what we call linear income and residual income. I got that from you. Like, this is what you're building. And when this thing gets big, it keeps going. So promoting is not hype. It's how to impart vision and hope to people.
Well, for everyone that's listening in, what I can say about David and what's so important is that it's creating vision for others.
Right.
We've heard that so much, David. A lot of people have sight, but they really don't have vision. And that's the difference. You have to be able to create vision for others.
I would say, Kerry, when you're working with someone, I think a lot of people get stuck working with people because they're giving them things to do rather than giving them a vision of what's possible. So now they have a reason to do the hard things in between to get to where they want to go. If they can't see that vision, it doesn't make any sense why they should make a list, why they should attend this event, why they should do follow-up. It doesn't make any sense. But if they have a picture of what they want, motivation comes.
Powerful words from a guy that you heard his story at the beginning to today has one of the largest organizations in the Juice Plus company. I want to fast forward a little bit, David.
Okay.
What was it like when Jay Martin, the president and founder, recognized the Beavers family as a Founders Award member? What was that like? coming from where you came from in the business, and all of a sudden you get this tremendous award.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I've never been asked that question. That's a great question. I think it was just utter, complete gratitude. Just part of me was saying, how did this happen? And another part of me was saying, this is what happens when you dream and you go to work and you meet people where they are and you listen and you set goals. This is what happens. And it happened for me and my family. It happened for me and Sally. You know, I met Sally when I was living in that $300 a month duplex. Our first date, we sat on the floor with takeout food. She was teaching third grade, making more money than I was making. But she believed in me, and we went to work, and 4 years later we got married. I still had to rent a car to take on my honeymoon, but we built this thing together, and over time I retired her. I remember the goal we set, Kerry. You didn't ask this question, but I think it's one of my favorite parts of my story is that about 5 years into our marriage, I said, you know, I want you to travel with me. I want you to be with me when I go to places to speak, and I want you to retire. And here's the deal. When my monthly income matches your annual teacher salary, I want you to step down and retire. And 3 years later, she did that. I was able to retire her. And then we just dumped debt like crazy. And for the last 13 years, we have been living in a house in the same neighborhood where I once house sat down the street. Every day I drive by that big old house where I lived for 2 years, driving that borrowed Mercedes, and I drive right by it every day, going to our house. And it's just a daily reminder of the gift that we've been given. And it's just tremendous.
Now, one thing that is so important is not for you or I or any leaders to be a king or a queen. As you mentioned earlier in the training, it's important to develop kings and queens. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about how you decided to focus more on your own personal development, developing leaders. So instead of being a one-man show, so let's talk a little bit about the kings and queens that you developed, the culture, the leadership in your organization.
That's been important to me once I made that turn, about the time I met you, about 5 years in. And so I've almost made it a religion, if you will, to focus on personal development with myself, and then creating environments for the people on my team to learn and grow. My big mantra is, if you will grow as a person, your business will grow. And a lot of people are stuck because they're not staying open and teachable and hungry. They're not paying attention. They're just going through the motions. So I think the beautiful thing about what Sally and I have today, we're both national marketing directors, both 100 Club, just blessed beyond belief, is that I'm surrounded now by incredible people who've been with me for some cases 20 plus years. Terry Luongo, folks like Kathy Crockett. I'm going to leave out some names, but there's so many. And of course, I just lost the first person I sponsored was Elsa Billman. And she was a presidential marketing director and 100 Club member and we worked together for 33 years. And she left a huge mark on this company and my life. I would say that I will forget about 95% of what she ever said or did with me, but I will never forget how she made me feel every time I was with her. And so many people feel that way about her. So I have just countless, I can't, and now I've got these great, precious young men and women coming up in their 30s and 40s, in some cases late 20s. and they're just so much fun to work with. They're just so teachable, and I've got something to give them. I got something to offer them. And so it's been a great experience. Having this culture, this community, I call it a community where someone gets to do what they love with the people they love and for the people they love. And that's what I've been able to do for 33 years, work with you, my nephew, Kurt, so many dozens of people, hundreds of people. And I just can't thank you enough. It's really been quite remarkable. And it's going to get better. We just finished the best year ever in one of the worst years ever. I mean, how does this happen? I mean, Sally and I look at each other and say, you know, unfortunately, I'm stuck at home with my beautiful wife in COVID, right? So we've just enjoyed every day together. We've enjoyed every minute, and we've watched this business just maintain and grow and expand and watch people grow, and looking forward to new people coming in.
Wow, that's interesting. Great answer, David. I really, it's developing kings and queens. It's so important. Now, David, on a very practical level, I'm guessing that a lot of partners in Juice Plus feel stuck from time to time, maybe even get discouraged like you were when I met you initially. How would you counsel some of them? What's a good way to hit that restart or reset button so they can regain their confidence, regain momentum, and maybe build something strong and lasting like you've done?
Yeah, well, I would say Kerry Daigle should go and spend 3 days with them. That might be a good start. That was the turning point for me. That would be a good start. But short of that, you need a coach. And I even since the time when things turned around, there have been times when I've sort of lulled and I found myself sort of kind of, okay, what's next? And I go to people who are good. I spend time with people who have momentum, who have passion, who have vision. And it's at seasons when a person may or may not have that juice, you got to get around some people and borrow it from them, as I did from you, for just a season, just until I can turn the corner and recreate that momentum. The other thing I did was they're different gurus you can go to. They're great people who teach personal development. My primary mentor back in the 90s and the early 2000s was Jim Rohn. And I would do, work out in the morning and listen every day for an hour. I became a sponge on personal development and personal growth. I also, since we're telling secrets, I got some great therapy and counseling. I got some people to really help me walk through some tough emotional times. I tell people jokingly, for 20 years, I was in counseling, and the next 20 years I was in counseling. So it's whatever you need to do. Another thing is I got really good at setting goals. I'm kind of an animal when it comes to setting goals, and goals have a way of pulling you through difficult times. They develop you. You're a different person when you come out on the other side and achieve a goal. I wrote my goals down on a little piece of paper, carried them in my pocket, review them all the time. I lived and breathed my goals, and I watched them over time come to pass. So I would say that if you're stuck, number one, you got to get back with the basics. You got, we're talking telling your story, giving people hope. Nothing will get you unstuck faster than 3 or 4 new customers, a couple of new partners. That'll get you going, helping develop them. Set some goals, get a coach, never miss an event. Get to the events where you are inspired and you're taught and you get that vision recast. We're forgetting animals. We forget why we're doing what we're doing. When I get with you, I'm reminded one more time of why I do what I do. I have to be reminded of what my vision is for my life. And so that's what I would say to someone who's stuck. Get good at the basics, get a coach, never miss an event, set goals. There may be some other things, but take responsibility for yourself. Take responsibility for yourself.
Well, what I've learned tonight was a lot, David. One thing in particular was that Juice Plus is not really the product at all. We're the product.
That's
and if
good.
we
I like
get
that.
better, our business doesn't get better. Because Juice Plus,
It's a done deal.
studies behind it, it makes everything work. I mean,
That's good.
the product is powerful. So I've learned a lot of that from you, and I learned a lot of that from listening to you tonight. And tonight was really a lot of wisdom in a short amount of time. You can't give everything in 33 years over a short hour of discussion and interview. But if in closing tonight, what's next for you, David? What's next for you?
That's good. I think, well, in terms of the business, I think my big goal now is that there's people in my sphere of influence that I want to mentor and build and teach and watch grow and be there with them. I want to become a better listener. That's one of the things I want to become. I want to become a better listener. I failed to mention that Sally and I have now been married 25 years, and we have 6 adult married children and 19 grandchildren, which obviously I didn't have 33 years ago. But there's a lot to wrap my arms around. The people I love, the healing that's taken place in my life is something I want to pass on to other people. And I'll always be grateful for the way the company has held me while I got my legs back. And now it's just time to pay back, to give back. Part of me would say I have no further aspirations except to build into people. That's really what I want to do. And I get to do that. And the company pays me good money for it too. I get to do that every day. I get to pour into people's lives and see the light bulbs go on, see their dreams come true. There's no greater privilege.
Wow, fantastic night tonight with you, David. I do appreciate it. I know I kind of threw questions at you from all corners, all directions, but I wasn't concerned about the answers because I just know you well enough to know that.
Thank you. I've loved every minute of this with you, Kerry. Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun.